Hello YouTube, this is DrawingKit1313 and welcome to your C++ tutorial part 4. Now in this tutorial we're going to be learning how to do a very important thing in C++ and really any program, and that is getting user input. So you can see that right here I have my dev C++ project and I have it named gettinginput.dev because that is what we are going to be doing. We are going to create a program that basically asks the user what their name is. It allows them to input what their name is, and then it tells the user what their name is. It may sound confusing right now, but a lot of programs kind of sound confusing when you go to actually try and think about what you have to do. But we're going to take this step by step, and most importantly, I'm going to show you how to get user input. Let's go ahead and start off with the first thing that you have to do with getting user input, and this is the reason why in past tutorials, instead of just kind of combining outputting and inputting into one big tutorial, I thought it was important to learn how to use variables and the different types of variables, because when you get user input, you have to store that input into a certain variable, and it all depends on what kind of variable that you need. So let's go ahead and explain that a little bit more. In this program, like I said, we're going to be asking the user to input their name. A name is pretty much just a string variable. It's a group of characters. So let's go ahead and create a string variable. String, and we're going to name it name, because that makes sense. Going to end our line with a semicolon because we always have to, and then we're going to make a simple cout statement. This is going to output text on the screen that the user can see, and then that allows them to know what they have to do. So we're going to tell the user exactly what we want them to do, and that is enter your name. Alright, we can go ahead and end that with some these caret things right here, and then we're going to go ahead and put end line and end our line with a semicolon. Now to get user input, think about this for a second. To output, we use cout. To input, well, it's pretty simple. We're going to be using cin. That is CIN. And this basically gets the line, it allows the user to type in things into the console application, and then when they press enter, it takes that information that they entered and stores it into the variable that you tell it to store it into. Alright? So when you have a cin statement, it's similar to how you have the cout statement and you need these little carets facing to the left, only with the cin, you need the carets facing to the right. So just kind of remember that. Cout goes to the left, cin goes to the right. And if you do screw this up at any point in your program, Dev C++ will kindly tell you, hey, that's not exactly how you use a cin statement, and then flipping that will probably fix it. So when you cin, again, you have to tell it what variable you want it to store it in. We want it to store the information that the user inputted in the variable name. And of course, we always underline with semicolon. Now this is where I get to prove to you guys that the user is actually inputting information into the computer, and we are going to output that information that we just input in the beginning of the program. So to do this, we're going to make another simple cout statement, and we're going to say your name is, just in case the person that's using this program forgot in those few seconds that he presses enter. We're going to say your name is, we're going to end our quotations because this is no longer part of a quotation. We're going to put more carets, and then we're going to output the variable like we did when we went over outputting stuff. And then we're going to put more quotations, and, oh wait, no, sorry, we're not going to put more quotations, we're just going to end our line. Alright, so just to go over this real quick before I run it, we tell the user to enter their name, we allow the user to enter their name, and then we tell the user what their name is using that variable that was stored with the user input. So let's go ahead and run this, and we'll see if it works. There we go. It says enter your name. Pretty simple. Let's go ahead and enter our name, Tyler. I press enter, and then it says your name is Tyler. And just to prove to you guys that I am actually inputting it and I didn't already make this, or you think that this is just some magical sorcery, I'm just going to enter in a different name. That way you can see that it is actually getting the text that I have right here, and it's storing it inside that variable, that string variable that we called name. press enter one more time, and it says your name is DrawingKid1313. That is perfect. Now I could do something similar if you have any other type of variable. You basically just have to name it differently. So let's say we didn't want a string, we wanted to ask the user their name. So in order to do that, I'm going to get rid of a few of these things right here, and instead we're going to make an integer variable. This is going to store the age that the user is. So let's go ahead and just name it age. I'm going to make another prompt just to tell the user, hey, enter your age. There we go. I like to use a little colon right there, and then we enter quotation marks, put our little carets, and end the line, and then end it with a semicolon. Now we're going to use another cn statement, and again, it's just as simple as we did it before. Simply just say the variable that you want to store it in. Alright, so let's go ahead and end that, and then we'll say you are, we're going to end our quotations, we're going to output the variable, age, we're going to put more quotations, and say years old. Alright, we're going to end our sentence, end our quotation, and finally end our line. Let's go ahead and run this. Come on. Now it's going to say enter your age. Let's go ahead and enter our age, 17. We press enter and it says you are 17 years old. That is awesome. That's pretty right. That's pretty awesome. And it's just as simple as we did it when we inputted our name. We just, use a different type of variable. Same goes with doubles, floats, any other type of variable that you could possibly think of. It's pretty much the same. Alright? Of course, that this does have a little bit of a downfall to it. Let's say the user is not very good at reading, and instead of them reading age, they said name, and well, let's try to enter our name. It's going to make some pretty random numbers. I believe what it actually may do is it just converts that to an integer, but I'm really not too sure. Anyways, you kind of have to be careful, and you have to make sure you always tell your user what type of information he's entering. That way you don't get any errors like this, because I can assure you that I am not that old. So hopefully now you see the importance of getting input from the user. It allows you to customize your program and allows the user to interact with your program. That way the program actually has more of a use than just outputting pretty text onto the screen. Alright? So that's pretty much all we have for this tutorial. At the end of each tutorial, what I want to start doing is I want to have a little bit of a segment dedicated to answering questions that were asked in the previous tutorial. The question for today's episode comes from, let me scroll down in my other monitor here, Brian D0313. He actually asked the other question that was, what does include mean, and what does this mean, and what does that mean? So very good question, Brian. Thank you for asking it, and very good question that you had this in the previous episode. So I'm going to go over it, and hopefully it'll help any of you other people out that had the same question. So basically the first question that he asked had to do with rounding and how the computer handles rounding. When we round, we usually round to the nearest whole number. Alright, so if we have 8.2, we're going to round it down because it's closer to 8 than it is to 9. So we're going to round it down to 8. If we were to have a number like 8.7, we're going to round it up to 9 because it's closer to 9 than it is to 8. The computer does not do this, to answer your question, Brian. It will always round it down. So no matter if your number that you have is 8.1 or if it's 8.9, it's always going to round down to 8. Of course, this only applies, and I forgot to mention this when I first mentioned the question, I apologize, but hopefully you're still listening at this point. This only applies if you try to assign a decimal value to an integer number. Of course, if you were to have this as a float, it's going to work and it's going to store the decimal. But if you try to assign a decimal value to an integer number, it's always going to round that decimal down. So hopefully that helps you and clarifies any of the questions that you have. The next question that he has was, does C++ follow the order of operations? If you're not familiar with the order of operations, I think the easiest way to explain it is there are some operations that we do first before we do other ones. For example, the easiest way to remember this is Pemdas, P-E-M-D-A-S. now I feel like this is a math class, but hopefully it clarifies any of the questions that you guys may have. And this stands for parentheses, alright? Stands for exponents. I almost forgot there, but it stands for exponents. It stands for multiplication. It stands for division. It stands for addition and subtraction. So basically what this means is if you have an equation, and let's say that you had 10 plus 5 times 6. Alright? Times 2. I lied. So if you had 10 plus 5 times 2. If you were not following order of operations, you would just go from left to right. And you would do 10 plus 5, that's 15. Multiplied by 2, that's 30. If you are following order of operations, you would do all multiplication before you did addition. So you do 5 times 2, that's 10, add 10 to that, and you get 20. And this is actually how the computer and C++ recognizes it. It does follow order of operations. So this is kind of important if you're doing any type of math program where you have an equation that you have, and just allows you to know how you have to have your equation worded and stuff. So hopefully that clarifies any of your questions. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to ask any questions if you have any questions, and in the next tutorial I may just so answer them on camera. Other than that, again, don't forget to subscribe, and hopefully I see you all in the next episode. See ya!